I used to be a miner at Silverwood Pit near Rotherham in South Yorkshire. Silverwood Pit was a pit of 1300 and the vast majority of us stayed out on strike in 1984-85. So the period was one of extremely difficult for a lot of working class people. There was a lot of people unemployed. So there was a sense around that Margaret Thatcher had got elected and we all knew that she wanted to attack the union. The NUM was seen as one of the main stumbling blocks to that. Because in 1972 and 1974, two successful strikes led to significant improvement in pay and conditions for the miners, and the 74 strike led to the downfall of the Tory government. So there was a mood of militancy amongst miners and a sense that they're going to come for us and we're going to have to fight. In 1984, they announced a pit closure programme, which was very provocative. They said 20 pits. It turned out they wanted to just get rid of the industry, break the union. We went out on strike. We were determined to fight them. Initially, we were hugely successful. Very early on in the strike, we sent flying pickets to Nottingham and basically put the case over why they should join us and fight Thatcher. We went into the canteens, we stood on tables and we put the case over for solidarity, and we were winning hands down. That's when we started to see brute force, the state starting to attack us, and that's where the violence was instigated by the state to try and beat us away from getting the message across, and later on in the strike to make sure to try and beat us back to work. Okay, I mean, first and foremost, one of the reasons why we survived 12 months, why we were able to fight for 12 months and still wanting to fight, even at the end, was because we had absolutely amazing solidarity and support from working class people. For example, print workers twice refused to print the front page of the Sun newspaper. One because it wanted to describe miners as scum of the earth. The other one, they tried to depict Arthur Scargill, the leader of the NUM, as a Nazi. So, you know, and then the coal was not moving by rail in large parts of the country because rail workers refused to move it. But the leaders of a lot of the unions in the power industry, in the steel industry, actively undermined us and refused to deliver the solidarity that we needed. So the leader of the Labour Party at the time was a guy called Neil Kinnock, and Neil Kinnock and the Labour Party leadership spent a lot of time trying to get everybody around the table and looking for a deal to get us back to work. And I believe, as many other people believe, that he didn't care what the deal was, as long as we went back to work. He saw the strike as an embarrassment. Part of the strategy was to start people back to work. Laws were introduced again as part of the Ridley plan. If you went on strike, you could not claim any benefits. We certainly could have won. There was numerous occasions when they were panicking and we had them on the back foot. And even at the end of the strike, after 12 months, the majority was still on strike and prepared to keep fighting. And it's been disclosed that if we'd have hung on for another couple of weeks, there would have been power cuts. And we'd have got some kind of deal which we could have held up as a victory. The backbone of the solidarity that was taking place inside the mining communities was launched by the women's support groups, which were formed to show that the women in those communities stood foursquare with the men. And that challenged men. You've got a mainly male workforce, certainly on the ground, right? So you had all kinds of attitudes in people's heads about the role of women in society. That was called into question, because it wasn't just in the soup kitchens, they were on the picket lines as well. They were doing public meetings, they were fighting for solidarity, they were fighting as hard as we were fighting. Black people from the Asian community, from the Afro-Caribbean communities turning up, right, from the Midlands, from London, from your own communities, and you're telling them about how they're delivering solidarity to you, and you're telling them about the police brutality and the Satellas about it. This is what they had to live through on a day-to-day basis. So racism was challenged. And there's even a marvellous film called Pride, which everybody should watch because it's based on a true story. And that is the formation of the Lesbians and Gay Support the Miners group in London who delivered solidarity to the South Wales coalfields and challenged homophobia and challenged. A lot of men feel threatened by, you know, in terms of they've got a fixed idea of what their sexuality are. That was challenged inside the strike. There's lots of lessons. I mean, you saw some amazing transformations in the strike. You know, they thought the police was neutral, they thought the state was neutral, they thought the media was neutral. When the media are calling you scum, day in, day out, and lying through the teeth about what's happening on the ground, and the police are turning up trying to beat you back to work, you start to ask questions about what type of world do we live in and whose interests are they representing. So what I would say, I mean, people, certainly from mining communities, were absolutely bowled over with the support they got on the streets of London. You know, I mean, people were turning out, applauding you, people were chucking money into buckets. People started to realise we were fighting not for money, we were fighting for jobs, we were fighting for the right to work, we were fighting for us communities. And they actually started to identify with that. Basically, the gloves were off. Thatcher had taken the gloves off and people knew that. And again, that's a tragedy because it's like, you know, going back to the role of the TUC and the Labour Party, they were the organisations that could have channelled that support more effectively and helped us win a battle which would have been in the interest of all those people, whatever jobs they were in, postal workers, rail workers, wherever you worked, it was your fight. And that was reflected when you went on the marches. It was wonderful.